I call it Victorian thinking, Victoria, England. This is kind of how she approached India at that time, same way they looked at the folks of India. You look at Doug Coe here, who runs an organization called the Brotherhood, kind of started along with the CIA. It's the covert kind of enforcer that's out there in all these countries like Africa and so forth, as well as the United States, doing all this kind of enforcement of ensuring that the senators and members of the House are sort of like the chosen people. You've got elected to the House and you've gotten elected to the Senate. So now you are kind of a chosen person, or if you're a general, or if you're at the World Bank, or if you're at the Council of Foreign Relations, you become a member of this kind of the court. There's the king and then there's the court. And Doug Coe has these Tuesday night supper meetings with senators, and he's basically a go-between between him and this enforcement network. So I can use Doug Coe to go after my enemies. If I have enemies, let's say I'm John McCain, I could use it to go after an enemy in the press in Arizona, or I could use Doug Coe in New Mexico. If I'm Jeff Epstein and I'm running a kind of a sex ranch for Sinaloa cartel, I can get rid of assistant district attorneys like Myron May that I don't like, through a system of contractors. Okay, so the Doug Coe convinces the leaders that they're chosen ones, and as I mentioned yesterday, he's Mao is his. I think I might have misspelled Mao, and Hitler are the two people he talks about in this video, and their ability to. He quotes a young red guard here chopping the head of his mother off without a second thought on a butcher block. That's what he says. Put it. She's on a butcher block. He cuts her head off with a cleaver. That's what he's demonstrating. What he's demonstrating is to the lawyers, to the king and the court, is that my group of people are like the spy agency that Elizabeth had. This is kind of like the Walsingham. They'll do anything. Absolute loyalty. Okay, and then you have the CIA level, which is DynCorp, they think of themselves as the knights. Some of them think of themselves as pirates. Some of them think of themselves as knights. And you're going to see a lot of movies where, a few young gentlemen, or fine young gentlemen, or whatever they call that movie, and then Knights of the King, or this whole idea that these are chosen people as well, not as high as the king and court, but kind of like this next level. So, as far as taking, the maiden of your choice, no problem. Putting the guys to work in the mines, no problem, because that's the king's will, that's the king's horses, the king's forest, etc. So a lot of things can be justified, and this is the Pug Winokur thinking. And this is propagated out through JTTF in our U.S. police forces, and it's being propagated out every year more and more, state police forces and federal enforcement, but also to all these foreign governments and so forth. And the idea is, it kind of goes back to Elizabethan England. There's the Catholics on this side, and there's the Protestants on this side. And if we don't take everything away from the Catholics through asset forfeiture, they're going to come get us someday. The shoe could be on the other foot one day. So we have to have a list of an enemies list, which we have, a terrorist watch list, and we have to have this way of draining the enemy. So that's what you got here. So a very good friend of Doug Coe is Kagame. Kagame is the guy who goes into the country of choice, into Congo, into Burundi, into Sudan up here, into Chad, wherever you want, brings the people all the way back from the Idi Amin days, and he worked for the successor to Idi Amin to create all this, the rape, sex trafficking, the mining, the whole bit. And not only do you make a lot of money for your contributors, but then you go back to Doug Coe, and he brokers the surrender. So basically, Doug Coe is this go-between between Kagame and the senators. So the senators don't want to be seen meeting with Kagame. I guess Bill Clinton has no problem, and Hillary Clinton has no problem being seen with Kagame. Neither does Fareed Zakaria, apparently. But the senators don't want to be seen with this, and they want some kind of go-between. So Doug Coe is kind of your broker for the Senate Senate Armed Services Committee and the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, more the Armed Services Committee. But he's your hammer. And then you send in Doug Coe to say, okay, are you ready to make terms? Okay, so that I can move my resources somewhere else. And these are like these guys are like the town scribe that says the king is, actually doing all these bad things. Well, you just get rid of these people. Now, in our democracy right now, you slow kill them, but if we take away enough privileges from the Constitution, then they just get red teamed like they did in Chile or whatever. So, and you use groups like this to do it. You use groups like Christians in Action, Catholics in Action, and so forth, who think they're doing the right thing. You just say, who will rid me of this priest? And then one of these groups will be more than happy to do it and get their bounty. So a couple of things on news, breaking news. A group of 6 human rights organizations came back from Syria just recently and spoke at the UN, kind of like Ava Bartlett did about a month ago. And they all concur. They all across the political spectrum, they all say this is going on. The rape of the kids being sold, the kids having their heads cut off. Basically, they cut off the head of the kid that's least marketable to scare all the other kids in the group. And also, it could be that they're bombing these old locations because they're trying to destroy the records, because they don't want to have this face of this child out here like this that can be matched up with a sheik in Qatar or UAE or AUE. So that's why even in America, where they're trying to move from hijab to, introduce Americans with, partially covering the face, and then they go to the full burqa, so these kids could never be identified. So again, this is just like, the psychology here with DynCorp is, well, you're going to die in the mines or else you're going to die in prison. Yeah, pillow on the face, and then we'll move on because we're busy. So Kagami's your guy, and here's what Kagami does. He's the one who's doing the organ harvesting. And I'm going to say right now, the same people, the same burqas that soldiers that did this and did the ivory trading in the national park there in Rwanda are going to be the same units in Haiti. That's why I say it keeps coming this way. And then Chicago's next. If it doesn't already exist. And I know everybody's saying Home and Square. I'll get to Home and Square and the secret prison there. So look for bodies here in Haiti, near this area. If you dredge that area, you're going to have the same evidence that you had in the same evidence you had of organ harvesting that you in Rwanda. Okay. So, like I said, Clintons don't mind being openly seen with organ harvesters, but I didn't write the report that Carla Del Ponte said that called out Kosovo, called out Rwanda, called out Croatia, called out Albania. We have the George Soros letter that they were going to do the whole Romania thing all over again, which is store the kids and sell them off with the Jeffrey Epstein photo display, on the coffee table, laid out the photos. So everyone's saying Stanley McChrystal, get to the whole death of Michael Hastings, and you're going to find Stanley McChrystal is a part of this Team Rubicon as well. So you're going to see this is going to be a kind of the generals club. And then I think Peter Thiel here is and that should be Palantir. I'm sorry I misspelled it. I did a show last night that kind of explained how Palantir is kind of the next upgrade from Prism. And then I just heard that, I said that a couple days ago, I just heard that Edward Snowden just said that. So it's nice to have the verification and confirmation. But Palantir is the back door into all the law enforcement agencies around the world. And teams like this are going to be dispatched to take out people already I think in a lot of mass shootings are covered by a sniper group like this. This is the Hollywood billboard. There's another group of people that aren't all square-jawed and so forth that are really the kind of the blood end of this thing. And keep the cards and letters coming about other contracts that DynCorp has. So here's an interesting thing with the resignation of those State Department folks yesterday. There was 4, I think, Patrick Kennedy and Victoria Nuland. If you this goes out to the senators and congressmen that Doug Coe likes to have over for dinner on Tuesdays. We'll call this our brunch or coffee talk. This is our coffee talk time between the senators and congressmen and the World Bank and CFR people. These folks in these different agencies, and I'm going to include Russia, and, England, and France in on this, they can pull out an email on you at any time. The same extortion information that Hillary has, they now have. So if you're going to make an anti-Israel vote, Israel can just let that out, or an anti-China vote, or a pro-China vote, or any kind of vote. And remember, she doesn't have just the sex stuff. She's got your private conversations and making deals. She's got it all. So this is the treasure trove. I think you want this to come out in metadata and just say that's it. That's the end of it, and because you don't want to be surprised later. That's the problem. You don't want to be surprised later. And they're going to use it against you. So everyone in the U.S. Congress is compromised right now, not just Trump, not just the State Department, not just the FBI, not just DHS, everybody. So if you don't publish this information, then you don't know what they have and what they don't have. This creates a lot more cloud of doubt if you don't publish the metadata, because then at least you know if they've got something on you or not. Okay, see where I'm going with this? This is actually a comfort to you if you publish this. So what if your Lockheed deal comes out and say, oh yeah, Lockheed's one of my big clients in California. That's all that says, and then you don't have to publish the Lockheed smoking gun email about you, and it doesn't have to come out. So more, there's 13, I guess now there's 13 FBI agents that have said that they've been intimidated, as well as or NYPD folks that said they've been intimidated. Here's the problem with this: when it becomes obvious that someone is trying to cover up child exploitation and sex crimes. Maybe not so much for this. The blue code would go, that everyone would just be quiet, conspiracy of silence type of thing. But people really can't stand this. And these people, all these cops have wives, and some of the women police officers as well. They can't stand it either. So what they're going to start doing, and what they've already started doing, is doing these screened interviews where you can't see the face, and then creating these little thumb drives of their testimony. Some do it with FBI agents in Washington, D.C. That's happening now, as well as the individual police officers are doing it. And they make 10 thumb drives. And then they use the same techniques you do. They drop it off at the 3 or 4 inspector generals. You can drop it off the inspector general of the FBI, DHS, ODNI, CIA. I can drop it off with my congressman. I can drop it off the New York Times, Washington Post, Washington Times. Let's have fun. Make 10. So if anybody knows a good 10-pack for the thumb drives, just have your kid take them in there, or your neighbor's kid, and pay him $10 to run it around. If you don't care about your identity being known, then do it. Send a certified letter to all these people, or you can post a letter to your website or Facebook, and then copy in the tweet, copy all these people. Now, that's not as good as a legal notice as the certified letter is, and it's certainly not as good as the thumb drive. But eventually, if you get the information to these outlets, somebody's going to publish it, and then it's out there, and it has a life of its own once it's out there. So again, I say, just put the 650,000 out, and then you kind of limit this